The end of My Hero Academia is something fans have discussed more than ever this year, and that goes for us too here on Plot Armor. With the end of the series approaching, as a fan, you can't really help but think about how it'll go down. And so, in this video, we're here yet again with another theory on how the series will end. We've previously put out theories that Deku will lose one for all at the end, but this theory is not that. We're now here to suggest that Deku will keep one for all, that core power, but lose all the other quirks that have been passed down. The inspiration for this theory is fans' dissatisfaction with Deku returning to being quirkless in the end, and not only that, but we do know there will be more movies after the series ends, and so ideally, the series needs to end in a way that allows for this to be possible without the movie production team having to stretch the story too much. And now, let's get into why this ending is possible. If you haven't already, please be sure to like the video, it really helps us out, and if you haven't already, subscribe with notifications on to never miss an upload. Alright, let's get into this. One for All was created by All for One forcing a stockpiling quirk onto his brother Yoichi, who he believed to be quirkless. Yoichi had a quirk though, one that simply allows him to transfer it. So this transferring quirk combined with a stockpiling power quirk created One for All. Yoichi with this though could of course not defeat his brother, All for One, and so he passed One for All to his successor with hope that one day someone could stop All for One. This created a cycle that has continued to now Deku, who wields the power after having it passed on to him from All Might. With the exception of All Might, all One for All users have died young. That is, unless you don't count the fourth user, Hikage, as young. He died at the age of 40 after hiding from All for One to simply focus on growing the power of the quirk after accepting the gap in power between them. Hikage was a very interesting case. All Might had gone as far as to hide his cause of death due to inconclusive thoughts. He had begun to find a side effect of One for All, which would be later fully revealed through the Vestiges talking with Deku. Essentially, this made it clear that One for All could no longer be wielded by the average person. The power is now too much for anyone who already possesses a quirk. Quirkless individuals are a rarity, so this combined with the fact that Deku is unlikely to meet someone with a need for this power would reveal that Deku is likely the final user of One for All. So really, All Might meeting Deku was an amazing blessing, because had anyone else gotten the quirk, their body would have been able to hold on to the power. Until recently, it was believed One for All was just incredible strength that had been stockpiled, but we now know that the quirks of the previous users were passed on as well. And not only that, but Yoichi made it clear that the words of All for One also revealed another truth. They had always believed that the raw spirits of the predecessors resided inside One for All, but the truth is that the fragments came with quirk factors of the 2nd through 7th successor. However, All Might is different in that he was quirkless, so only he left a piece of his conscience in that power. This next point is important. All Might was quirkless to begin with, and wielded the power for a long time. He made the quirk his own. Instead of a borrowed power, it filled his cup and became his natural quirk. Alright, with that out of the way, let's get into how Deku will likely lose all his extra quirks in the end. We all know that the end fight will come down to Shigaraki versus Deku, and I think the majority of us agree that Deku will not be killing him. Deku will be saving Shigaraki from himself and from the grip of All for One. This fight will likely occur on two fronts, the physical world and again in the vestige world. A lot will happen during the battle, and this video isn't really about how the battle will play out, but rather the end of it. We have a couple ideas on how this can happen. Let's first discuss the combat possibilities. We know the reason One for All cannot be stolen is because of the will of its predecessors. That will is too strong to have it just be taken. Instead, the power has to be willingly passed on. It's important here to note that the power can be forcibly given. Let's remember that because of Shigaraki's strong hatred and will to destroy, he may be able to do what All for One has never been able to. He has the potential to steal One for All and bring an end to this historic battle. This part of the theory is inspired by the recent events with New Order in the manga. When Shigaraki is in a position to steal One for All, it's possible that the previous users will allow their quirks to be stolen from One for All, but not the core quirk itself. Now you may be thinking, why would they do that? And the answer is simple. It could be sacrificing themselves to allow Deku to continue fighting and possibly beat Shigaraki with the core strength All Might himself nearly defeated All for One with. Or it could be that they sacrifice their quirks to then become part of All for One and revolt against the other quirks inside Shigaraki. In the manga recently, Star and Stripe had to set a rule to force her quirk to rebel, but the whole special thing about One for All is the will of its users. So it wouldn't surprise me if their will is so strong that once stolen, their quirks can rebel and cause internal damage, again allowing Deku an opportunity to defeat Shigaraki. They could even destroy other quirks inside of All For One, like how All For One's Reflect quirk was recently destroyed by a Star and Stripe. I think this possibility is very cool and wouldn't mind seeing it personally. We may even see Shimura Nana inside of Shigaraki's conscience trying to stop him. And you may also be wondering if they could allow their individual quirks to be stolen, and I think it's more likely that they can than they cannot. Let's not forget the Heroes Rising movie, which is canon. In that movie, the users chose to remain with Deku, meaning their wills are so strong that they can override what Deku may choose to do. In that moment, Deku 100% intended to pass on the power, and yet they chose to remain. So it's possible they could choose to become part of All For One and leave Deku. And once these quirks become a part of All For One, they cannot simply be destroyed as we've seen recently in the manga, they need to be passed on to someone else. Another in-combat possibility is that inside the Vestige world, while the fight is occurring, Shigaraki is able to harm the predecessor's vestiges, destroying them again in a similar way to what happened to All For One's Reflect quirk in the battle against Star and Stripe. That Vestige world fight should be really interesting, but we'll have to wait and see if it occurs in this way, of course. Now we have the out-of-combat possibilities. Yoichi himself stated that the origin of One For All was itself a powerful will that refused to submit to All For One. Once All For One is forever gone, it could be said that the quirk's flame would be calmed. Their decades-long mission would be complete. Again, Yoichi himself stated that the basic premise is that One For All is tasked with destroying All For One. It only seems natural that once the mission is complete, the power too will be put to rest. The One For All predecessors would finally be able to totally rest and move on from this world. So they may go back to sleep, you could say. They weren't always so directly tied to the core and may go back to that state they were in previously before the quirks were awakened, or just completely leave One For All. But here is the key point in all of that. Deku could reasonably keep One For All and his core strength, because this has become his quirk in the same way it was for All Might. Deku did not have a quirk previously, and his will combined with time improving the quirk may explain how in the end he can keep it. This would allow the series to end with Deku having a quirk and being able to live on as a hero in society and in, of course, the future movies. Of course, Deku was already a beast with just strength, but I think we can all agree the extra quirks is what makes him ridiculously stronger than anyone around him. Losing those extra quirks would allow for enemies of reasonable challenge to appear and also allow for his peers to remain close and relevant. We can't reasonably have enemies of All For One caliber keep appearing in movies. So in our mind, this type of ending is the perfect solution. It would partially suck to see Deku with such power, then never see it again, but I don't see a better ending at the moment. If you guys have other ideas in mind, share them below in the comments. This theory would satisfy a lot of things, but a final thing it could do is give us Deku's equivalent to All Might's goodbye One For All. A moment that we saw during the fight against All For One early on in the series, in what you could call Act 1, it could become relevant again through Deku having a similar moment at the end of the series. Another amazing parallel between these two characters. But yeah, what do you guys think? Is this most likely the ending of My Hero Academia? And if it is, how would you feel about it? Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching until the end. If you haven't already, please remember to drop a like on the video and subscribe to Plot Armor with notifications on to never miss an upload. Also, if you haven't already joined, check out our Discord server where you can talk about all things anime and manga with us and the rest of the Plot Army. The link to all that and all our other social media pages can be found in the description below. Until next time, keep that Plot Armor on you. I'm KJ. Have a great day. Goodbye.